Hello, we're back at Chaos Farm, and as you can see we have quite a few horses around us, although they've now disappeared again. We are out here in the field today because we're going to talk to you a little bit, or I'm going to talk to you a little bit about what we do for the horses in the winter, and obviously the wet weather that we've had. Luckily today we are graced at the moment in our little microclimate with good weather. Hey Gidge. And as you can see, the horses do have a mind of their own, so as you can see they are going to come and say hello. Gidget. Although I'll try and give her a little bit of a move. Come on, love. Because they are also inquisitive, and at the moment, with the weather being as horrible as it is, they all want to kind of have a little piece of us to say hello, have a bit of attention. So yesterday they went back into, or they've gone into one field now, the herd. So there's now 13 of them in here. We've got 2 in the stable and 2 in another field, which we'll see in a bit. So this guy, Hector, he normally is out in one of the fields by himself, or not by himself, with his sister and half brother and sister. And yesterday he came back into the field with all of his friends, so he's now back with his big family, and he's loving it. And as you can see, he definitely wants to be part of the film, although we might be boring him a little bit now because he's yawning. Hey? So anyway, back to the focus. So for today, what we're going to do is talk about how we care for our horses in the winter. Thanks, Doris. And actually try to keep safe. So as you can hear with the horses, there's quite a lot of groundwater. The ground has just been absolutely saturated, as we know, over the past few weeks. And at the moment we are in a clear spell, which is good. But whether that will last or not, I don't know. So at the moment we're all in welly boots, and the ground is it's just squelchy and horrible. These runner fields that they're in, these 2 fields, they are our highest ground, which does help a little bit. So it kind of all drains down the hill, as you can see, right down to the tree line at the bottom. So it does help a little bit, but when the feet get too wet, they just get really soft and they start having hoof problems. So what we want to do is keep a good eye on the hooves, so their feet, and keep checking the horses every day. So at the moment we're checking them twice a day. So what we'll do is we'll come over to this little chap here who's going to let us. So Trevor. Hi Trev. And you can see, excuse me, Trevor, he's quite bright, he's quite happy. He's got a massive mane on him, so all of this is his mane. He's looking bright in his eyes. He's got a lovely coat. And so what I mean by coat is this fur. So all of this, you can see, my hand disappears in it. He's got like 2.5, 3 inches of fluff, really. So it keeps him really, really warm. He's a Shetland cross, so he doesn't need a rug like Edie. He doesn't need a coat like she's got. So this is what we would call a rug. So what she's wearing, this is a rug. He doesn't need it because he's got so much hair, and quite honestly, he's got a little bit of pot belly too, haven't you, Trev? Which at this stage in the winter is really good because he's got a little bit of extra coverage here. As you can see, it wobbles, but that's really good because it helps to keep him warm. Obviously, we need to keep an eye on that so it doesn't get too much, because when the spring grass comes through, it'll actually give him the potential of having laminitis, which is like a headache in the feet, which we talked about last summer on Chaos TV. So do catch up and find that clip from last summer. So we'll move on to Edie. So with Trevor, he's quite happy, he's quite bright, his eyes are clean, his nose are clean. With Edie, she's just saying hello. Edie pie. Oh, come on. So what I wanted to show you with Edie, so I don't know if you can see, just by her eye on this other side, she's got a bit of hay just down by her eye. She's not going to show us now. Edie pie. So just here, oh, it's blown away a bit. She's not going to show me, let me show, but just here. It's got a bit of hay. I'll see if I can move it. There we go. So it's a tiny, tiny little bit. Don't know if you can see it on my dirty fingers. Oh, just disappeared. But what they do, those bits of hay actually go into their eye, and we just have to be really, really careful of their eyes. And as you can see, Edie's eyes are actually quite clean. They're quite bright. She does have a bit of mud around them and a bit of mud over the top, but that's nothing really. She's just rolling in the mud just to try and help herself keep warm. Edie did have, until yesterday, she had a neck on her rug, which was trying to keep her neck warm, because obviously if you get cold, your neck gets cold. If your neck gets cold, you get colder. So like me, I've got my hood instead of a scarf. Edie basically had the equivalent of a scarf. So she had a neck over here, but unfortunately yesterday, before we moved her, her and Hector here, good time and Hector, they had a bit of an argument and Hector pulled it off. He then trampled it into the mud and it was more mud than rug, I would say. So she's now no longer got a neck on her rug, although it's now in the wash after being dunked several times in the water trough. It's now in the wash, so hopefully it will be, giving you a close up, it will be able to go back on her maybe tomorrow or the next day after it's been washed again and reproofed, which will then help her keep a little bit warmer. So I'm just going to disappear. Trevor keeps biting the cameraman's wires. Trevor. And as you can see, horses do have a mind of their own, which for today is not quite working towards us. But Edie has this rug on. So this rug is basically like a heavy duty ripstop nylon / canvas really. This isn't a heavy one. It's not got loads and loads of padding like a great big fleecy kind of ski jacket. It's probably just like what I'm wearing, just a waterproof windstopper really. But that's enough that actually helps her to keep warm. So Trevor is still around and you can see the difference in her fluff. So she's got maybe a centimetre, maybe 1.5 centimetres if it's a long bit of hair. Whereas Trevor has all that kind of extra. You can see it just comes way past my fingers. I can't find a dry enough part, but my hand almost disappears within his coat, within his hair. So he's got a lot more coverage of hair to keep him warm, whereas Edie doesn't really. So they're now going to kind of go away and have a little bit of a walk around, which is quite good. So we'll come on to Hector. So as he's still here, so Hector doesn't actually have any rug on. The reason being, Hector is a little bit heavier built, shall we say. Are you enjoying that? So Hector behind me, don't know if you can see, he's just giving me like a mutual groom. So he's rubbing his nose on my hip because he likes what I'm doing there. So he's quite enjoying that. So what horses do, they mutual groom. So I'm itching him and he's itching me. And the more he enjoys it, the harder he'll actually bite. So I don't really want to continue doing that too much because it does get to the point it hurts. Yes, Hector, that's a bit hard. So rather than just lips, it goes to teeth and it gets a little bit harder. Ow! As I said. So Hector doesn't have a rug on. He is a little bit thicker set. He doesn't have that much more hair, but you can see on him, he's got patches that he's really crusty and muddy. That's where he's actually tried to roll just to give himself an extra layer of kind of warmth really. The reason Hector doesn't have a rug is because Hector kills rugs. He kills his coats. So every time we put one on, it lasts about 2 days and then he manages to get it off. How, I do not know, because they have straps at the front, straps under the belly, straps between the legs, but pretty much every time he manages to get it off. And then he just leaves it on the ground, bites it, chews it, pulls it, kicks it, you name it, he kills it. And with an average rug being about 60 to 80 pounds, 12 to 15 rugs in 1 year is quite a lot of money. So Hector now is naked. So he has to rough it, bless him. But as you can see, he's still got a really good tummy on him. He's still got a good kind of wodge of fat up here. So he's not in any which way skinny. You can't feel his ribs. So he's looking quite happy. And he's still nibbling me. So what we're going to do is we're going to say thanks to Hector, good boy. And we're going to walk the other way because I'm going to show you a little bit more of the horses. So as you can see, we have some littler horses that are all going to follow us now. We've got Gidget, we've got Fergie who's walking away with the red rug, and we've got Hector who's just mobbing our cameraman. Hector, stop it. So along here we've got little Tilly, and she has actually ripped her rug. So the side of it is not as it should be. It should be connected up here. Hello, Tills. So we're just going to give that a bit of a pull over, make sure it's in the right place. But this damage here, this is what Hector does. So this is on somebody else's horse, or sorry, not on somebody else's horse, somebody else's rug. But Hector basically just chews and chews and chews and then rips it. So poor old Tills, her rug has probably been hectored. She is the littlest pony that we've got, so probably he thinks of her as an easy target. Because he is a bit of a thug, bless him. And as you can see up here, there's actually Edie in the big red rug is chasing Fergie with the little red rug. So there must be some different dynamics going on. The herd are probably still settling, Oh, I don't know if you can see, but Fergie's now having a bit of a roll. So he's not too worried. But the idea is that horses, when they come back into a bigger herd, they'll actually carry out the normal herd dynamics and act as horses. So they might have that different interaction, that they'll kind of find that hierarchy again, that balance. So they'll reorchestrate who's boss. I already know from kind of just watching them for kind of 10-15 minutes last night and again this morning who is still the boss. It's Foxy, who we will go and see in a moment. But her kind of boss really is Doris. So this black mare up here, hey Dory, with the two-tone rug. So she's got a greeny purple and black rug. That is Doris. She is the matriarch or joint matriarch with Foxy. So Doris, Edie and Hector, they were in the same field together. So she's probably the boss of them, and they go like as a little trio, if you like. And then Foxy, who we'll go over and see by the hay, she is actually the matriarch of everybody else. So what we're going to do is we're going to try and avoid the poos a little bit, and walk through the horses. As you can see, they're all quite happy, and they'll probably follow us in different ways. But we're going to go over to where the hay is. So at the moment here, you can see there's still quite a bit of grass coverage. There is obviously muddy parts, and the horses' feet have sunk in. There is poos around as well, but that's just because this is where the horses usually stay, because it's the top of the hill. Over to where we're going, it does get a bit windier. We've got the hay rack. So because there isn't that much goodness in the grass at the moment, and there is quite a lot of wind, as you can see, we are 2 fields from the sea. And you can probably hear the wind to an extent. It's literally just coming straight off the sea. So in terms of kind of sweet itch or any kind of fly related problems, we don't have too many of those because of the fact we have that lovely sea breeze. But at the same time, we do have that sea breeze, which can be incredibly cold, incredibly harsh, and then it does kind of kill the grass a little bit. So we're sometimes a little bit unfortunate with our weather, specifically because we have a mini microclimate here. So we add the hay to the horses' kind of diet as well, especially now it's winter, because the grass doesn't have the goodness in it. We can't bring all 13 in every single day to feed them hard feed. And with the ponies, they wouldn't have that hard feed because it's got a lot of sugars in it, which can cause them different kind of hoof problems, different growth problems, actually cause them to put on weight, which later on would impact worse. So we're going to come over this side. As you can see, the grass is covering here. Where we get closer to the hay, there is less grass cover because of the fact that it's being used a lot more, and it's slightly downhill. So it does get incredibly muddy. In a perfect world, I wouldn't show you, but actually it's the real world. It is the real world, and this is what it is like on farms. Farms are muddy. We care for animals. We love our animals to pieces. But there is always mud, and actually with the weather we've had, we can't avoid it. There is always going to be mud. So we try and manage it the best we can. As you can see, they are now looking at us. So the horse in the red rug is Foxy that's looking at us. She is the one that I was referring to as the matriarch. So she's the boss of the herd really. So within a few steps, you'll be able to see kind of the muddy area that they actually use. And I'm having to walk this way because I know there's a lot more lumps and bumps, and otherwise I'm going to go flying on my bum. So what we'll do is, if we stay here, then what you can see is you can see where kind of the grass actually kind of goes into the mud really. So where it's still quite hard ground here, there's a bit of squelch, but then it goes into where there's a lot more squelch. So what I'll do is I'll come over and just show you a little bit more. So it's now starting to be more squelchy, and as you can see, there's a lot more. Don't know if you can hear it, but there's a lot more kind of squelch about it. And then it would come to where the grass has kind of met the mud properly really. So now it's just mud, unfortunately. Whereas we would love to be able to have horses on kind of a hard standing all the time, it's not realistic. And actually they are horses, they enjoy being horses, and part of enjoying being horses is being able to be out in the nature, in all the elements to an extent. Although we cosset them as much as we can with rugs and different things. Good girl, Tills. I'm having to move just like Tilly is because it's quite cloggy, this ground. But what we do is we actually try to allow them to be horses, and like I said, there's 13 in this field, so they are all together. So I'm going to grab some of the hay. Good girls. There we go. So as you can see, boots are definitely needed at the moment. So what we're, hey Doris, what we're doing is we're giving them this hay. So this hay is basically dried grass. Here you go. And it smells really sweet actually. So it's probably last year's bale of hay, and it just gives them that extra kind of nutrients, a little bit more fibre really for the diet, because at the moment with the ground there's not that much goodness in the grass. So you can have some. And as you can see, Doris is kind of using her nose to kind of go through and find the best bits. That's what they do. They just prefer to find the best bits, and Hector is now nibbling our cameraman again to try and get some more food. Hecky, you need to come here. So what they do is they use their nose. It's kind of like a bit like a giraffe, I suppose. They actually use it to kind of move the ground around, or the hay around, until they can find the stuff they want, and then they'll just eat the best of it really. So what we're going to do is I'm going to feed them a minute, get rid of this hay, and we're going to come back to the studio for a quick song, and then we'll show you into the field, which is much nicer, with much more grass, to the older 4 really. So we'll catch you in 5. Hey, so we're back again. So we are now in a field that is a lot drier, and as you can see, it's still quite wet because you can see where the hoof prints have been, but there's a lot more grass, and there's no water in this field until you kind of go near enough down the very bottom end. So it's a lovely field in terms of kind of lack of mud, lack of water, or less water and less mud, I should say. So we've got just 4 horses in here. The reason being, these are the ones who are a little bit older, or the 2 that aren't a little bit older are actually needing a little bit of extra. So Ryan here, Ryan is, I think he's about 10 years old now, but he always just needs a little bit of extra TLC in the winter. So he's 1, and then his mum Magic. So this is his mum Magic. Magic is now our oldest mare, so our oldest horse. Good girl, Madge. She's now 29. So because of her age, she just needs that little bit of extra TLC. And we've got the dogs singing in the background. So she needs that little bit of extra TLC. And the horses. So you're having a cacophony of noises today. So we've got Wilma, who she's normally with Doris, Hector and Edie, who we saw in the last field a moment ago. She is Oscar's half-sister, and this is Oscar. Oscar is her kind of half-brother really. So Oscar, he is a typical thoroughbred, just the same as Wilma really. They're both that kind of more angular, kind of athletic build, but with him, he is actually 24, so he is that bit older, and again, just like Magic, he needs that bit of TLC. Oscar and Magic, from this afternoon, they're actually going to be in the stable 24/7. We don't really like doing that because it's not as good for them as a horse, so they're not able to be a horse completely, because of the fact that they are in a stable rather than in a field like this. You can see is lovely green field. But just for their weight and their kind of the health management, we've got to bring them in, just because Oscar's lost quite a bit of weight recently. It doesn't really help with his rug looking all squiffy. He's actually got a little bit of a muscle loss on his bum, but he actually, his rug does look squiffy at the moment, so it makes him look worse than he actually is, but he does need to put on a bit of weight. So what we're going to do is bring him in and actually give him that real intensive amount of food and hay, give him a bit more love and TLC. So he's got this great big rug on. You can see it's really quite padded. Husky. So it's kind of about that thick. It's kind of like your ski jacket that I was talking about earlier. You can see it's obviously got a bit of mud there, but it's that kind of thickness. So it's a good inch thick with lots of padding, lots of kind of warmth there, because when a horse is a bit older, they lose a bit of their weight. and obviously in the winter that is kind of increased, and then they actually get colder, so they use their weight and their kind of their fat stores to try and keep their body warm. Because we don't want Oscar losing any more weight, we've put a big kind of heavy duty rug is what we would call it on him to help him, but it's still not quite enough. There's not enough goodness in the grass to actually kind of help him to replenish what he's lost already so far this winter. January is always the hardest month for horses. We are now coming in, well, we are now in February, but the spring isn't quite here, so we're just kind of trying to keep going as long as we can, really. So Oscar and Magic will be coming in. They'll have the extra hay, the feed. They'll have brushes 2 or 3 times a day, so their coats will be shining within a couple of weeks. By giving them a brush, it massages their body, gives them lots of oils within the coat, and that helps to give them that kind of that feel good, that warm kind of feeling. So that's those two. What we're going to do is, I think Wilma is just eating a tree branch. So I'm just kind of catching this out of the corner of my eye. So Wilma is the one up by the electric fence. She's actually eating a bit of a twig. So for me, that's telling me that Wilma actually needs a little bit of extra nutrients. So she needs a bit more minerals. So although she has had and actually Ryan, interestingly, is eating a branch as well. So he's just to our right. There's a branch just down by his front of his feet. I'll see if I can get it a minute. Anyway, so you can actually see there's quite a bit here. And you can see all the nibble marks. And there's a bit of grass still stuck on there. So he's obviously been eating grass and eating this as well. So that says, there we go, look, there's proper little, you can see the teeth marks here, the kind of end marks. So that says to me that they do need a little bit of extra minerals. So even Ryan and Wilma, who are looking a lot better than the others, they do just need that extra TLC. So what we'll do, we have got a horse lick in the feed room. So what we'll do is we'll actually bring the horse lick out and we'll give it to these two specifically. So that horse lick has minerals, it has nutrients, it has vitamins. It's got lots and lots of goodness in for horses. So salts and minerals and all sorts really. Hopefully that'll help them a little bit. If not, the feed that they're going to be having each day will be helping them as well, because they're going to have intensive feeding as well, but obviously in the field where there's a lot more grass, and they can actually have a lot more kind of goodness really, other than from just the grass. So in the background we can obviously see the polytunnels here, and we can see all these little kind of lumps and bumps of bits and pieces. What we'll do is next week I will explain a little bit more about this. Hopefully this kind of dry weather will last for long enough that we can actually show you more than just the lumps and bumps. Put it that way, we'll leave it as a bit of a surprise. But the idea is that something will go there. So don't worry, it's not just lumps and bumps, there is more to it. So wait for next week, watch us next week and then you'll see it. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to let you listen to Oscar a minute, because I loved hearing that munch. I just think they sound so peaceful. They just kind of just do really slow munching. It's very, well, for me, it's very soothing. And I often in the summer I come out and I'll sit in the field with them and just kind of listen to them munch. To start off with, they'll all kind of come around just like they did this morning to poor Alex, our cameraman, when they were mobbing him. But they want to know what you're doing and why you're there and what's this bit of your foot and why have you got your toes out, and they nibble everything and they kind of look and sniff, and then they'll go, all right, it's only you, and they'll wander off and they just start eating, just like Oscar is, and the others, they just start eating just very quietly, and they'll go around in a circle all the way around you, and then they'll start moving out further. They kind of accept me and kind of some of the other staff as a horse really, I suppose, or as part of their family. We don't pose them any threat, and actually just sitting in the field, they quite enjoy it as much as we do. Obviously Oscar is keeping an eye on us. Hey Husky, we're talking about you. Yes. So he knows that we're kind of talking about him, and you're watching. He really isn't bothered. he's quite happy to pose in front of the camera. I think he was doing that on purpose. So what we're going to do is we're going to make our way over to Wilma, and you can see Wilma's the one at the very far end. She's got her rug very squiffy. So what we're going to do is we're going to go over and just say hello to Wilma if she'll let us, and just straighten her rug up a bit so it doesn't fall off. The idea being that she actually keeps that kind of that warmth close to her body, rather than it moving, kind of the rug moving too far and actually making one side of her body cold, because obviously that's going to cause problems to her. You can see here, this is obviously where the horse has been a bit more, so the grass has kind of just been trampled down a little bit here. Anyway, good boy. Ryan's quite happy to say hello. Nope, he says nope, not. Hey, Wilmaloo. And again, we can see evidence of Hector's rug destroying these bits. The knots are my my very Heath Robinson quick repairs, so that we could actually keep Wilma vaguely, right, we can keep Wilma vaguely warm. Hey, Wilmaloo. Good girl. Oh, Wilma doesn't want to be on camera today. I've managed to pull her rug over a little bit so it's not quite as squiffy, but she's been a bit antisocial. She doesn't want to come say hello. But Ryan, on the other hand, you want to say hello and have a fuss, don't you? Hey? Good boy. So with horses, the other thing that we need to think about is their teeth. So in the winter, when they're eating all the roughage, it's quite good for their teeth, but in the summer, teeth grow. I'm just going to see if Ryan will show us his teeth. And you can see, can we see your teeth? They've got very, very big teeth. He's not going to let us see. You going to let me see? But they've got very, very big teeth that they continue to grow. So one of the other things that we've got to be very aware of in the winter is actually their teeth, as well as their feet. We actually have to manage their teeth as well. So there is such a thing as an equine dentist. Our dentist is due to come in March, I believe, to check these guys over. So some of them, Oscar has already had his teeth done, as has Magic. They were done in December. Wilma was actually also in December, and Ryan was actually, but the other field, they are in March. So they will be having their teeth done then. And then next Wednesday, we've actually got the farrier as well. So the farrier comes and he looks after the feet. So I don't know if you can see with Ryan's feet. Big feet up, mate. Because there's quite a lot of grass, but you can see. So he's got nice rounded feet, and that's what we want to do. If I can pick it up forwards, he doesn't particularly like it, but there we go. So you can see he's got a nice rounded foot. He's got this part here, which is actually called a grass crack. Good boy. Where rather than just being like a little crack like this, the farrier is actually opened to make sure that nothing goes in it and causes any problems with his hoof. So he's got a nice kind of round hoof. He's got a few little chips out here and just here, but he's actually due to have his feet checked next Wednesday. So just like we have a manicure or a pedicure or just chop our nails, the farrier does exactly the same for the horses really, and he just makes sure that they don't have anything nasty in their feet, that everything is growing as it should. And particularly with domesticated horses, so like these guys, rather than like the wild Mustangs, they actually need to have that attention, because once you start doing something, you have to continue doing it. And obviously, good boy, part of a horse's health is actually, as much as we need to look after the feet care or foot care is actually, it affects the whole leg. So if the feet are kind of more to one side, if he's got more hoof on this side than he has on this side, it's going to put more pressure up either side of his leg. It's going to cause his shoulders to build more muscle in different areas, and it'll actually put his back out. So it doesn't just affect his feet, it'll affect his whole body. From his back, it'll affect his neck, how he carries himself, where he builds his weight, where he holds his weight, where he builds his muscle, everything really. So it's a really, really vital part of the horse care. Along with that, there is also the brushing, there is also the feeding, as we've talked about. What was that for? Oh. So Tam has just opened the polytunnel, and they've just obviously heard that. So Ryan jumped, and me being me, jumped as well. So going back to the brushing, so Ryan at the moment, move your head round. Ryan has got a lovely, great big long mane. So we've left it long for the winter, because of the fact that actually it's just like having long hair, it keeps you that bit warmer. So try and tuck it down, keep it in his neck bit, just so that it's like a scarf. It acts like a scarf or a hoodie and keeps him that little bit warmer. Under here, you can see he's got his mane flat down here, but he's lovely and soft and silky down here. So this is where he's actually got his normal hair. You can see, just like Edie, it's not very long at all, which is why we've given him the extra coat, really, and the scarf, if you like. So this is really, really soft. If you could feel it, it is like silk. It's so soft, which means that he's had really good grooming. He's got a nice load of oils and nice load of oils within his coat. Oh, he's quite liking that. So he's going to mutual groom the camera. So he's got a good amount of oils, good moisture within his coat, and within his skin, really. So that means he's quite healthy. As you can see, just like Hector, Ryan is thinking about giving me a mutual groom. Ow! So obviously Ryan likes it on the top of his neck up by his mane. I don't really want nibbles, mate. Thank you. So just like mutual grooming with Hector, horses, they do actually love that mutual respect. So he's treated me as a horse, and he really liked having a bit of an itch up there, so a bit of a massage. That's why he nibbled me. And although for a horse, actually a horse nibbling a horse isn't as bad as if Ryan just nibbled me, which does actually hurt, because they do have great big teeth, and he thinks that I'm a horse. That's why he's doing it. He's going, oh, that's so nice. Me being a horse, as in him, I like it. The more I bite you and nibble you, the harder you're going to do the itch on my neck. So therefore, I'm going to show you that I enjoy it more. So he's going to bite me harder, which in horse terms is actually really, really positive. For us as people, we're obviously a lot smaller. We don't have teeth the size of Ryan's, which hopefully he might show me. There we go. So his teeth are a lot bigger than ours. Good boy. So when he bites, it hurts. And although he's not actually meaning to bite to hurt me in a nasty way, he's actually doing it because he's really enjoying what I was doing, it still hurts. So that is one of the downsides of being a human, I guess, compared to a horse. But he really enjoys it anyway. So we'll give you a bit more of an itch, won't we? Hey, Ray. Good boy. You can see he's listening. So I can't hear anything myself, but he's obviously hearing the other horses. And obviously because they called to each other a minute ago, he knows that they're not too far away. So he's just giving it a bit of a listen. As is Wilma behind. So they're obviously just listening, just to see who's around and what's going on. Hey, Madge. So Magic's now going to come over and she wants a little bit of the action. Hey, Maggie. Doing a bit of a fuss. So horses they are very, very social creatures, and I think they see me, Ray, hold on, they see me as a little bit of a horse. So they often come over and use me as a scratching post. So just like Magic's just itched her head on me, I think she's now going to come across the camera. Ryan, don't bite rugs, please. So what we're going to do is we're probably going to come back to the studio a little bit early because we're now kind of getting surrounded again by the horses. We're going to come back to you, and next week we will be talking more about, well, maybe next week. We'll see how the weather goes. If we get any more rain, we might have our little lumps and bumps may not be quite as we planned. So we'll see what the weather does, but potentially we'll either be with a different group, which will be very interesting, or we'll be back with our lumps and bumps of earth. So see you soon.